and welcome. Tonight, Supreme Court holds fund allocation to River State, orders Martin Amewele to resume sitting with his lawmakers. Lagos High Court sitting orders all members of the Lagos House of Assembly to be joined as parties in the suit filed by the disputed Speaker, Honorable Mudashiru Obasa. President Bola Tinubu signs the 2025 appropriation bill of 54.99 trillion naira into law. An Oval Office meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky ends with tense exchange.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's forex reserves hit a 7-week of decline, dropping further by about $241 million.
On sports, President Bola Tinubu receives Nigerian-born Super Bowl winner Moro Jomo at the State House. The president says the NFL star to receive national honors.
And from the nation's capital, an unconfirmed number of people burned to death in an auto crash at Okolowo along Ilorin-Jebe Expressway in Ilorin, Kwara State.
We begin tonight in Abuja, Nigeria's federal capital territory, where the Supreme Court has laid to rest lingering thorny issues surrounding the River State House of Assembly. The Apex Court today ordered the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Accountant General of the Federation to stop further release of allocations to the Rivers State government with immediate effect, directing an immediate reinstatement of Martin Amewele as a Speaker of the House. The court went on to declare the local government election in the state invalid, condemning Governor Siminalayi Fubara for preventing the lawmakers from conducting functions, but it also described the demolition of the House of Assembly as an act of indiscipline.
The Rivers political crisis is reaching a resolution as the Supreme Court delivers judgment in the suit between Governor Sim Fubara of Rivers State and the Martin Amewele-led Rivers State House of Assembly. In a judgment delivered by Justice Emmanuel Akumayi, the Apex Court barred the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Accountant General of the Federation from further releasing funds to the Rivers State government until a lawful appropriation law is enacted under the speakership of Martin Amewele. The Supreme Court ordered the 27 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly who allegedly defected from the People's Democratic Party to resume function immediately. The Apex Court equally condemned the governor for allegedly engaging in a criminal act of demolishing the State House of Assembly with impunity just to prevent the 27 lawmakers in the House of Assembly from sitting. The court further held that it is an aberration for Governor Fubara to operate with only 4 out of 32 House of Assembly members under the guise of baseless fear of impeachment. The justices also accused the governor of executing dictatorial acts. The Supreme Court affirmed the judgment of the Court of Appeal and the Federal High Court, which had earlier declared the acts against the 27 lawmakers as unlawful and illegal. A fine of 10 million naira was imposed on Governor Fubara to be paid to the House of Assembly and the 27 lawmakers who instituted the suits.
First of all, I think one need to commend the Supreme Court, the Apex Court in this judgment, for enthroning judicial authority, for also enthroning constitutional order in this country, not only in Rivers State, but in the whole country. Enthroning the rule of law over and above the rule of man, executive recklessness and impunity. What we have seen here today is the judgment of this honorable court confirming the judgment of Justice Omotosho, the judgment of Justice Lifu, and also the judgment of Malik of Federal High Court, Justice Malik of Federal High Court.
In another judgment, the Supreme Court voided the Rivers State local government elections held on the 5th of October 2024. The Apex Court held that the election was invalid because all conditions precedent to the conduct of the valid election were jettisoned by the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. Justice Jamilu Tuko, who delivered the lead judgment on the appeal, held that the election was conducted in gross violation of Section 150 of the Electoral Act of 2022. The Federal High Court in Abuja had on the 13th of September 2024 stopped the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) from releasing the voter register to the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission to conduct the October 5, 2024 local government elections in the states.
With the ruling of the Supreme Court today, and in obeying all laws of our land, I am still the chairman of the Ilorin Local Government Council as pronounced by the Rivers State House of Assembly led by Martin Chikere Amehule. We want to commend our lords of the Supreme Court.
There are things we have learned today from the judgment, that the rule of law can never be taken for granted, not the rule of man. Anything we do in this country as politicians, we should ensure that we are standing on the rule of law.
The court had also barred the Inspector General of Police and the Department of State Services (DSS) from providing security for the exercise.
Well, the Apex Court's judgment understandably had Speaker Amewole and his lawmakers in a jubilant mood back home in Rivers State. The Speaker and the members of the House did not need to a second prompting as they went ahead and held plenary.
It's a joyous atmosphere at the Rivers State House of Assembly following the Supreme Court judgment, which, among other decisions, ordered the Speaker and all elected members to resume sitting. And sit they did. During plenary, the House leader officially informs members about the Supreme Court decisions.
You will recall that our matters that we went to court today went to the Supreme Court. Judgment was delivered today. And in all our prayers sorted in those appeal was granted in our favor.
Speaker of the House, Martin Amewule, commends the Apex Courts for its judgment while expressing hope that the Rivers State Governor will obey the judgment.
Now that the Supreme Court has drawn the governor's attention to his malfeasance, we believe that the governor will take heed and begin to do the right things in line with our constitution.
He also addresses government officials who were appointed by the state governor but not properly screened by the assembly.
Everybody who is supposed to be screened by this assembly before assuming any position, but is assuming a position without being screened or confirmed by this assembly, is doing so illegally, and those persons are criminals under the law.
Speaking on the sidelines of the plenary, one of the lawmakers says there will be legislative consequences if the governor fails to represent the budget to the House.
Present the budget to 3 or 4 of your friends. It is a joke taken too far.
However, a former council chairman who is in attendance takes a more conciliatory tone, calling for peace and progress.
For me, it's not, there is no victor, no vanquish. It's the state that has won. My prayer is that, in as much as we're happy, we expect that everybody, whether you like it or not, like the judgment or not, whenever there are judgments like this, there is no way it will be favorable to everybody.
With this judgment, Rivers people are watching with keen interest what the governor's next move will be and if the political imbroglio in the state will abate soon. Charles Oporum, Channels Television News.
Well, staying with the Supreme Court judgment, and the Rivers State government has now said it is waiting for a comprehensive briefing on the implications of the judgment. The State Commissioner for Information, Joe Johnson, says the government will thoroughly assess the situation upon receiving detailed information before deciding on the next course of action in the best interest of the state and its residents. Mr. Johnson, however, claims that the issue of defection of the 27 lawmakers is not a matter before the Supreme Court, as it is currently pending before the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt.
We have taken note of reports in the media regarding the recent judgment of the Supreme Court. concerning the funds of Rivers State and the administration of local government in the state. At this time, we are awaiting a detailed briefing on the implications of the judgment. We will carefully evaluate the situation, determine the next steps to take in the best interest of Rivers State and its people. Though we have not gotten the details of the judgment from our legal team, we enjoin Rivers people to remain calm, law-abiding, and go about our legitimate businesses as we seek clarity on the judgment. We believe that the determination of the main issue of defection of the 27 lawmakers is a matter not before the Supreme Court, as it is pending at the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt. Since the issue of defection wasn't on the table before the learned justices, in their eyes, Amehule and the 26 others are still operating as lawmakers until that matter of defection comes before them. We assure you that we remain committed to upholding our mandate to protect the best interests and the rule of law in matters affecting our dear states.
Well, back at the nation's capital, the minister and former Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has reacted to the Supreme Court judgment, saying that the Supreme Court has ended impunity in Rivers State. The FCT minister says that Governor Siminalayi Fubara has no choice but to fully comply with the Apex Court's verdict.
Yeah, I've always said that the will of justice is sluggish, but it will come when it will come. More than 50 months, 60 months, this matter has been laid to rest by the highest court of the land. The only thing that can happen now is for anybody to appeal to God. If there's an opportunity for you to appeal to God, Supreme Court has made it very clear that you cannot have a democracy without a legislature. The Supreme Court has made it clear, cannot say there's a government without the legislature. It is unheard of where anybody will say 3 people will constitute an assembly to make laws for the entire state. We must commend the judiciary for being bold, for being fair, to say no, this should not be allowed. This impunity must not be allowed. I've told people that Rivers State is not like any other state. We are not prisoners of war. We are not conquered. We must challenge anything we know that is illegal. We will not allow it.
In part 2, after the break, President Bola Tinubu signs the 2025 appropriation bill of 54.99 trillion naira into law. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Supreme Court holds fund allocations to Rivers State, orders Martin Amewule to resume sitting with his lawmakers. Lagos High Court sitting orders all members of the Lagos House of Assembly be joined as parties in the suit filed by the disputed Speaker, Honorable Mudashiru Obasa. President Bola Tinubu signs the 2025 appropriation bill of 54.99 trillion naira into law. And Oval Office meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky ends with tense exchange. Move away from the Rivers government crisis now to another crisis, this time rocking the Lagos State House of Assembly, as the Lagos High Court sitting in Ikeja has ordered that all Assembly members be joined as parties in the suit filed by the disputed Speaker, Honorable Mudashiru Obasa. Justice Yetunde Pinero gave this order after hearing the application filed by some members of the House seeking to be joined in the proceedings. Our judiciary correspondent, Shola Shuyeli, reports.
Lawmakers led by Speaker Mojisola Meranda arrived at the court premises early for hearing in the suit filed by Honorable Mudashiru Obasa challenging his removal. Honorable Obasa did not show up for the proceedings, but he was represented in court by his counsel, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Afolabi Fashanu. Among other things, Honorable Obasa wants the court to declare that by the provisions of the Constitution and the rules and standing orders of the House, the Lagos State House of Assembly, which had adjourned on January 6, 2025, cannot lawfully and validly reconvene on January 13 to remove him without an opportunity to defend the allegations made against him. Honorable Obasa listed the House of Assembly and Mrs. Meranda as defendants. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Tayo Yetibo, is leading Mrs. Bimbo Akeredolu and other lawyers to represent Speaker Meranda. Mr. Femi Falana is leading Dr. Muiz Banire and others to represent the lawmakers present here. Their appearance is challenged by another counsel, Abang Padiong, who claims he was briefed by the House of Assembly Thursday night to represent them in court. It's not clear which lawmakers this counsel is referring to, as Mr. Falana and all the other lawyers in the matter say they have not been served with his court processes. The lawyer, however, insists on being heard. He told Presiding Justice Yetunde Pinero that he filed his application for a change of counsel this morning and insists that the court hear this application as it is a fundamental right for parties to be represented by counsel of their choice. Mr. Falana objects. He submits that proper procedure has not been followed and he remains the counsel on record. Indeed, Mr. Nkpadiong admits that he has not served the other lawyers with his court papers and seeks the permission of the judge to serve them in court. The court moves on to hear the application for joinder filed by 33 lawmakers. In their application, the lawmakers loyal to Speaker Meranda are challenging the facts of his removal as put before the court by Honorable Obasa. Through their lawyers, Senior Advocates of Nigeria Oludaramola and Dada Woshika, the application is moved and the court allows it. The court in its ruling granted permission for the lawmakers to be joined as parties. After looking through the court's records, Justice Yetunde Pinero noted that the application for change of counsel was not ripe for hearing. The court also said that it would not take the application for accelerated hearing at these proceedings. The court has adjourned till Friday, March 7 to hear all pending applications in this matter. Now, outside of the courtroom, Honorable Mojisola Meranda, while speaking to journalists, denied that she had resigned. She also condemned Honorable Obasa's alleged invasion of the House on Thursday.
To me, that was just a show of shame, because in our job, we have numbers that form quorum. So if you are sitting with 3 or 4 members, you're only doing theater.
The Lagos State House of Assembly has adjourned indefinitely, and all eyes are on the courts to do justice in this matter so that legislative duties can resume under an atmosphere of peace. Shola Shoyeli, Channels Television News.
Well, from the Lagos High Court, Ikeja, supporters of the Speaker, Mojisola Meranda, headed straight to the Lagos State House of Assembly to inspect the premises after the former Speaker, Mr. Mudashiru Obasa, appeared at the Assembly. The Deputy Speaker of the State Assembly, Mr. Mujid Fatai, who led the lawmakers for that inspection, commended majority of those lawmakers for supporting Speaker Meranda. While some of these lawmakers also spoke to journalists, emphasizing their commitment to the party and the adherence to law and order.
Let me first of all appreciate my colleagues for their support for the Right Honorable Speaker Mojisola Meranda. Yesterday we got an information that former Speaker Honorable Mudashiru Obasa invaded the House. Then we went to court this morning. Then we now decided that we need to come and see things ourselves.
At the time we went around, we noticed that some doors were vandalized and broken into, glasses were shattered. Door is being swept off this morning.
After leaving the court, you can see our attendance, you can see the banner, we all came in peacefully, and we've been maintaining this peace since day one. So we are enjoining everybody, Lagosians, Nigerians, to see, and we've always been emphasizing that we are committed party people. We are committed party chieftains, and we are elected, and things will be done in accordance, with the law of this country.
Following what has been a challenging year for many Nigerians and those living in the country, President Bola Tinubu has attributed the economy's positive growth to strategic reform and economic discipline on the part of his government. The president was speaking after signing the 54.9 trillion naira 2025 appropriation bill into law at the State House, Abuja, as he thanked the National Assembly for the work on the document, promising that his administration will work harder. A State House correspondent, Larry Lasisi, reports.
Federal legislators of the National Assembly, on the day they passed the 54.99 trillion naira 2025 appropriation bill.
Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Today, the leadership of both chambers are in the State House for the signing ceremony of the bill by President Bola Tinubu. The Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, leads other aides and ministers who are also present.
Booming with over 50 billion a month as IG.
The President of the Senate assures President Tinubu that the legislature worked diligently on the bill.
We on this side of the aisle, we believe strongly that anything that can bring about and alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians, any policy that you propose that can alleviate the suffering of Nigerians, rest assured of the support of the National Assembly, both chambers. We will go with you. We are behind you. We will go with you because we know that you mean well for this country. Here now is the budget. You are about to make history. You gave it to us in December. People may think we delayed. No. We had to go through line by line, clause by clause, to ensure that we meet the aspiration, not just of your administration, but that of the entire nation.
President Tinubu started by acknowledging the economic difficulties of the past year.
The past year tested our resolve, but through the economic discipline and strategic reforms, we achieved what many deemed impossible. There are no dust in our faces, and there are no tears in our cheeks. We see a light at the end of the tunnel. We can see signs of progress.
According to the president, revenue has increased, the naira has rebounded, and deficit has been reduced.
Today I can smile that I've seen sunshine. I have given the hope to our people. We can only promise to work harder.
It is then time for the president to sign the bill into law. This bill is expected to empower the people, rebuilding prosperity and ensuring that every Nigerian shares in the dividends of governance. From the State House, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Well, away from the economy to politics, in 2 years' time, Nigerians will be talking about the 2027 general elections. Well, ahead of that, the ruling All Progressives Congress Constitution Review Committee is pledging its commitment to ensure inclusivity of all party members. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the chairman of the committee and governor of Yobe State, Mai Malabuni, says the committee, which was inaugurated during the 13th National Executive Committee meeting of the party, is mandated to expand its membership ahead of the elections.
The party initially have structured the party into 6 geopolitical zones. Each geopolitical zone is headed by a committee, and I happen to be the one in charge of the Northeast, and that is being done. We are on it, and of course this one is to strengthen and further widen the scope of operations, and of course for proper inclusion, because it is all about inclusivity We don't want to exclude people. We want to include people. That means it is to strengthen the party and prepare it for the 2027 election. Of course, political party is not about, it doesn't have a stopgap where you will say you have stopped from here and then you continue at a point. No, it is all about end-to-end, open-ended thing. You start from 2023 to 2027. It's all about preparation. It's all about, even what the president is doing and delivering to the nation is in preparation for 2027. So there is no specific time for certain things. It is all about you being in government. You are the one expected to be delivering. So it is a part of delivery. So we are delivering. So it's part of it, and we are.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's forex reserves hit a 7th week of decline, dropping further by about $241 million. That's in business news. Please join us again. Welcome back. Hold the electoral umpire, the Independent National Electoral Commission, and politicians more accountable and ensure credible electoral process in the country. Well, that's the clarion call to journalists by the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room. The convener of the Situation Room, Mr. Yunusa Yau, who said this during an advocacy meeting with the leadership of the Nigerian Union of Journalists in Abuja, believes that the political class has failed to practice credible internal democracy.
But one in which the government has not made any serious efforts in terms of addressing some of the loopholes that we have observed in the 2023 general elections. We haven't seen any executive bill that is supporting electoral reforms to address some of the things that many people have spoken about following the 2023 general elections. And I think it's very important that we begin to consider once again in a more serious sense the sort of people that are appointed into the National Electoral Commission, whether as national commissioners, whether as chairman or whether as reps in the various state organizations. I think that in the past 1 or 2 years, we have seen a president attempt to ignore convention, to ignore the law, to appoint people who are clearly partisan. And then once you have partisan people, the field is no longer even, and that the credibility of the election itself is compromised by the very nature of those types of appointments that are made.
The news at 10 continues now as we head over to our Abuja studios, where Millicent Walker is standing by to take us through more stories on the news at 10. It's over to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. And we begin on a rather sad note. An unspecified number of people have been burned to death in an auto crash at Ogoni along the Ilorin-Jebba Expressway in Ilorin, Kwara State. Sources say that as many as 60 people traveling from the northern part of the accident occurred after a trailer ferrying fertilizer and petrol collided while overtaking, resulting in an inferno. Officials are yet to respond with the accurate casualty information. And we're back in River State, this time away from politics. The Minister of Environment, Balarabe Lawal, has commissioned 2 water projects in Ogoni land. This is part of HYPREP's restoration efforts to ensure the availability of potable water for the people of Ogoni. The minister was accompanied by several dignitaries as he commissioned the water schemes in Beri, Kana local government area, and Bunu entire local government area. Our correspondent Deborah Agbalama was there and now reports.
This commissioning stands out from the previous ones as it has a roll call of dignitaries, including the Minister of the Environment, Balarabe Lawal, Minister of Regional Development, Abubakar Momo, NOSDRA Director General, members of the National Assembly, Chairman of the National Agency for the Great Green Wall, Senator Magnus Abe, as well as the UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in Nigeria, Mohamed Fall, amongst others. Before the commissioning, the delegation embarks on a tour of key remediation sites, assessing the extent of work so far done. Their first stop is the underground water remediation site in Ogale, Eleme, LGA, and then Bomu in Gukana, where shoreline mangrove restoration projects are ongoing. Next is the Center of Excellence and Environmental Research, SEER. After the project tour, the delegation proceeds to commission the Biri and Bunu water projects.
When we came here in July last year, and I saw for myself the number of activities that are going on here in Ogoni land, and I feel highly fulfilled that this current management and leadership of APREP is great.
But I think this set of people that are working for us now, they are prepared and they are ready to deliver.
For the Minister of the Environment, the commissioning reflects government's commitment to implementing the United Nations Environmental Programme UNEP report's recommendations on the Ogoni cleanup.
Access to clean water and potable water is not just a necessity, but a fundamental human right. Water project delivered by HEPROIP remediation project is part of the program commitment to the restoration of Ogoni land.
HYPREP's management also believes that this is a step forward in its mandate to transform Ogoni land.
We are proud to deliver these critical infrastructures to Ogoni communities. This commissioning ceremony also proves that HYPREP is making significant progress in the Ogoni cleanup implementation process.
The United Nations has been closely monitoring the progress. UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator Mohamed Fall reaffirms the global body's support for the initiative.
I stand here to remind that IPREP has come as a result of a recommendation made by the United Nations Environment Programme. And this has started in 2006. Since then, the UN has been in each step of this journey with the people of Ogoni.
And then it's time for the Minister of the Environment to cut the tape to usher more communities in Ogoni land into an era of potable water supply. With the inauguration of these water projects and progress seen at the Center of Excellence and Environmental Research, SEER, as well as other remediation sites, the minister is optimistic that 2025 will deliver more impactful projects in Ogoni land through HYPREP. Deborah Abalama, Channels Television News.
And that's it from the Abuja studios. And happy weekend, and it's back to you.
Happy weekend to you, Millicent. Thank you. The Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence Sultan Saad Abubakar III, has officially declared Saturday, March the 1st, 2025, as a fast day of the holy month of Ramadan. Speaking from his palace on Friday, the Sultan announced that the crescent moon was sighted earlier today, and that corresponds to the 29th day of Shaban. He adds that the widespread reports of the moon sightings from various regions of the country were verified and accepted by the Council, confirming the commencement of Ramadan 1446.
Reports of positive sighting of the new crescent of Ramadan have been reported to us by various leaders across the country. And we have verified and authenticated such reports and duly accepted such reports. Therefore, tomorrow, 1st March 2025, makes its first Ramadan 1446 after Hijrah.
Time now to take a look at Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves, if it dropped or if it fell. And Dominic Iwiwu is standing by to give us more.
Thank you, Anne. On business news, Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves have dropped further, notching 7 consecutive weeks of decline amid relative stable naira. According to the CBN data, gross reserves fell by $241.50 million week on week to $38.46 billion as at February the 27th. Meanwhile, naira appreciated at the official market despite the absence of CBN intervention. Analysts attribute this to reduced demand pressure amid declining FX reserves. United Nations Global Impact believes that Africa is slowly but surely building on its vast potentials for economic development. In an exclusive interview with Channels Television, the Chief of Governmental Relations and Africa at the UN Global Impact, Ms. Tolulope Tamoka, revealed that accelerating the continent's development is at the core of the Global Africa Business Initiative.
With the digital space, which is one of our core themes, we see that Africans are taking advantage of that space. They are connecting with fellow Africans in other countries. There's no longer that divide, that these borders, artificial borders have created, but we're seeing connections happening. And we're seeing that when they're focused on really being a force for good, Africans are tapping into that. Take issues around climate action. We have initiatives that really are advancing this work on the continent. I can give example. We have on stage, on our global stage, companies like Soma Group looking at how to enhance infrastructure, but doing that with a sustainability lens. We have the IFC, AFC in our partnership, the African Development Bank. And I think once, the business leaders talk to the DFIs and also talk to governments, and that's a unique piece that we bring in. We bring in the policy makers. Over the past 3 years, we've had conversations with over 10 heads of states in our midst. And that's why we convene also in New York on the back of the UN General Assembly, because heads of states are there. Sometimes it's difficult for business leaders to have that opportunity to talk about their pain points, the enabling environments that they need, the policy regulations and reforms that sometimes hinder them from being able to go an extra mile in bringing about, these sustainability changes. But when we bring them sitting next, side by side, just as you and I are sitting with the head of state of Nigeria or Botswana, as we've done in previous years, then, connections are formed and change and progress can happen for the continent.
To some company news, Lafarge Africa PLC has announced the record-breaking revenue of 696.8 billion naira for the 2024 financial year, reflecting a 72% year-on-year growth, driven by higher sales volumes. Operating profits surged by 89% to 193 billion naira, while profit before tax rose 89% to 152.5 billion naira. The company's profit after tax increased by 96% with earnings per share doubling to 6 naira 22 kobo from 3 naira 17 kobo. In Q4 2024 alone, profit before tax jumped 212% to 60.97 billion naira, and profit after tax soared 263% to 42.8 billion. The CEO of Lafarge Africa, Mr. Lulu Alade Akinyemi, attributes this success to cost management, innovation, and sustainability efforts. In Q1 2024, the company expanded its portfolio with water shield cement for water resistance and super white POP in Q4 2024 for decorative use. It also strengthened its sustainability efforts by launching Eco Planet Cement in Q3 and adopting calcined clay in Q4 to cut carbon emissions. Lafarge Africa remains optimistic about continued growth in 2025, expecting resilience in Nigeria's infrastructure and construction sector. The company also plans to maximize market opportunities, control costs, and accelerate its green growth strategy. The domestic equities market made a rebound in today's trading session, snapping 4 consecutive days of loss. Willie Bong tells us more.
good news. As anticipated, the NGX closed the final trading day of the week and the last one for the month of February in the green. And all thanks to the oil and gas sector. And we have our market mover, Aradel. Aradel closed today, gaining 14 naira to close at 529 naira. And this is in expectations of their financials, which is about to be released. And this boosted the oil and gas index, which gained nearly 2% today. We see that counter up 1.74%. O&O also contributed to, pitched in to push this counter up. We see consumer goods still in the red today, and no thanks to Dangote Sugar, Cadbury, and Nigerian breweries. Now, despite the negative sentiments in the consumer goods counter, the oil share index closed up 0.14%. Let's say the index 107,000 levels still hanging in there, and the market cap for the week 67 trillion. It's still earnings season and it's raining dividends already for some stocks. I guess you'd like to take position and take advantage of this. And that's the stock market report. Will Ibong signing out.
And that's it on business news. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Dominic. Outside our shores, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky today left the White House without a deal, and that's after a fiery meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. Mr. Trump had asked Mr. Zelensky to make a deal with Russia and end the war in Ukraine or count the United States out. Here's Simon Puse with more on this and other international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about?
The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has left the White House in Washington without a deal after he and President Trump had an unprecedented shouting match in the Oval Office.
God bless, you will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
The US president told his Ukrainian counterpart to be thankful and accused him of gambling with World War III. Zelensky said there should be no compromises with Vladimir Putin.
And he happens to be right about
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now.
The talks come a week after Zelensky said Trump was living in a disinformation space created by Russia, while the US president accused Zelensky of being a dictator.
You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's backed you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once?
Hundreds of national, oceanic and atmospheric administration staff have been laid off in the latest development in the Trump administration's efforts to slash the federal workforce. Around 880 workers, including weather forecasters, have had their jobs terminated. The cuts come as Elon Musk, as the head of the of government efficiency, continues a push to reduce spending through funding cuts and firings. An NOAA spokesman said the agency would not comment on internal personnel matters. Greeks are holding their biggest protests for years and taking part in a general strike to mark the second anniversary of a rail disaster that left 57 people dead and dozens more injured. It was during the night of the 28th of February 2023 that a passenger train packed with students collided head-on with a goods train near the Tempe Gorge in central Greece. An inquiry concluded on Thursday that the accident was caused by human error, poor maintenance and inadequate staffing. Mexico has extradited 29 alleged drug cartel members to the United States, including high-profile gang leaders. Those extradited include the notorious drug lord Rafael Caro Quintero, who has been wanted by the US for the murder of an American agent 40 years ago. The move, considered to be the biggest extradition in Mexico's history, is seen as a major step in bilateral security relations between the two countries. It comes after US President Donald Trump threatened to impose tariffs on imports from Mexico earlier this year, accusing it of failing to tackle drug trafficking and mass migration. At least 41 road workers have been trapped after a massive avalanche struck a remote border area in the northern Indian state of Uttarakhand. A police spokesperson said that 16 workers had been rescued and moved to an army camp nearby. The avalanche hit a camp of the Border Roads Organization in Mannar in Uttarakhand, which shares a border with Tibet. A senior district official said that there was no information yet about whether there were fatalities. Romania's Justice Minister Radu Marinescu has called for a public explanation into why the controversial social media influencers Andrew and Tristan Tate were allowed to leave the country on Thursday. The brothers, who are facing charges including human trafficking in Romania, had been under a travel ban for more than 2 years before it was lifted, allowing them to fly to the US. Andrew and his brother Tristan have strongly denied the allegations against them. The brothers are dual US-UK citizens and were first arrested in Romania in 2022. And the pop star Katy Perry will blast off into space as part of an upcoming all-women flight on Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket. The fireworks singer will be joined by Blue Origin owner Jeff Bezos' fiancée, Lauren Sanchez, CBS presenter Gayle King, former NASA rocket scientist Aisha Bao, civil rights activist Amanda Nguyen, and film producer Kerry-Ann Flynn. Blue Origin said this is the first all-female spaceflight to take place since the Soviet Union's Valentina Tereshkova's solo mission in 1963. There is no specific date for the launch, but Blue Origin said it would take place this spring. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. From there, we're delving to the world of sports, where Kelly Agiga is standing by.
Thanks, Anne, and welcome to Sports News. President Bola Tinubu has received Nigerian-born NFL star Moro Ojomo at the State House earlier today, following his Super Bowl victory with the Philadelphia Eagles earlier this month. Ojomo, a defensive tackle, played a pivotal role in the Eagles' 40-22 triumph over the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59. President Tinubu commended the player for his achievement in the National Football League in the U.S. and promised he will be honored with a national award.
Nigeria didn't even go and look for the NFL. The NFL came and looked for Nigerians. So when we put the resources and we put the time into Nigerians having the athletic ability, it can explode. And it not only gives them the Nigeria that visibility of, we're the biggest African nation in the NFL. It's not close.
I went through some political twists and turns too to get to where I am. Your perseverance, your determination, your encouragement, your focus should be admired. Be at home, and I will be honored with one of the most national awards.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And we'll look forward to the awards. Well, 6-time Nigerian champions Rivers Hoopers have been drawn to play in the Kalahari Conference of the 2025 Basketball Africa League season. Rivers Hoopers will play against FUS Rabat of Morocco, Egypt's Al Ittihad, and Stade Malien of Mali from April 5 to 13th at the Prince Moulay Abdallah Sports Complex in Morocco, where the Hoopers will begin their campaign against Stade Malien, will be making their third appearance at the Basketball Africa League. They featured in the inaugural season held in 2021 and last season's edition. Now, 3 decades after Formula One engine's last rode on African tarmac, South Africa is mounting a bid to organize a new Grand Prix and bring the World Championship back to the continent. Competition to host the high-octane spectacles is between 2 tracks, a street circuit in Cape Town and the less picturesque but historic Kyalami race track outside of Johannesburg. A committee set up by Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie will choose the winning bid in the 3rd quarter of the year.
To tennis now, where Felix Auger-Aliassime is into the finals at the Dubai Tennis Championship. Well, he's just one step to the final. And that's sports. I'm Kelly Egigas. Back to Anne.
Thank you, Kelly. And the main news again. The Supreme Court has halted fund allocations to River State. The Apex Court also ordered Martin Amewale to resume sitting with his lawmakers. We also told you that the Lagos High Court sitting ordered all members of the Lagos House of Assembly to be joined as parties in the suit filed by the disputed Speaker, Honorable Mudashiru Obasa. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwaodo. Have a wonderful weekend. Good night.